indieJourno.com going in-depth now, talking to Professor Emeritus Bruce Altshuler with the State University of New York about the implications of the Attorney General's recusal and the testimony of Congress, which now is being called into question. Thank you for joining me, Bruce.
Pleasure.
Talk to me about, let's take the entire situation big picture. Is there a precedent for the Attorney General to recuse himself from an investigation this large?
Yes, there is. If you go back to the George W. Bush administration, there was a special prosecutor named Patrick Fitzgerald to look into leak accusations, and that ultimately resulted in the prosecution and conviction of Louis Libby, an aide to Vice President Cheney.
What about now? I think a lot of Americans are concerned about the office, the Attorney General's office, that he can do his job. What can we learn from past instances and even the climate right now in Washington?
Well, it's a very difficult situation because there are not confirmed second or third in commands in the Justice Department. So that the person who will be taking over the investigation is a holdover from the Obama administration, and the person before him was fired by the president. So you're going to have Dana Blante, who not very many people have heard of, will be in charge of the investigation. And if there's an investigation into Donald Trump's charges of wiretapping,
right,
that too will require Sessions to recuse himself.
Is that because it's along the same lines?
Yes,
or related at least to the election?
It involves the campaign. He's recused himself from all matters involving the campaign.
So where did things start at this point?
That is a good question. Right now, Sessions is still clarifying his testimony.
Right.
He seemed to have said he had no contact with any Russian officials, but he's now claiming he had no contact as a campaign official, but as a senator. Many Democrats wanted him to come back and clarify his testimony in person, but instead he simply sent written comments to the committee, and they don't appear that satisfactory.
You know, the Attorney General is commonly referred to as the top cop, the man or woman in charge of law enforcement in this country, in a sense. Does this call into question, or does this put a slant on any future actions by that office? Could we see the Justice Department suffer because of this?
Well, it depends on what comes up. The Attorney General is quite different because he's not simply an advisor to the president. He has to enforce the law and therefore is the representative of a wider public to do justice. Where there may be some interesting issues will be on questions of voter fraud, where again, Donald Trump has made undocumented charges of millions of fraudulently cast votes. The Attorney General has taken back the Obama administration's intervention in a case against Texas's voter ID laws. So will that be in question?
You're an expert on this subject. Do you believe that even with this recusal, justice is going to be served in this matter? Or at least the investigation will be completed correctly?
No, I don't. I believe that there has to be some sort of independent inquiry, either a congressional special committee or an independent prosecutor. I think having congressional committees or the Justice Department investigate has too little credibility at this point.
There are many people saying, hey, there needs to be a change. What kind of change could happen at this point? I mean, is there something that by demonstrating, by showing distrust outside of the investigation you just mentioned, are there other steps that could assure more of a fair process?
I think the best is to have some sort of independent inquiry.
Right.
Sessions is obviously not going to resign. The president is not going to fire him. And therefore, whether you like him or not, he's the Attorney General. Congress may be holding up Republican nominees who would be in charge of any investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an interesting question to see what happens in the confirmation of the number 2 person in the Justice Department.
Bruce,
It's
go
pending.
ahead.
Yeah, it's pending in Congress right now.
Absolutely. Well, all eyes on D.C. right now. This is only one of the many controversies, if you will, that we should pay attention to. Hopefully we can stay in touch and get more clarity as things come down the line.